Hello and welcome to the agenda on Labour Social. I've just got to double check that we're actually streaming. Yes, we are. It's fantastic. Hello. My name is Graham Hughes, and today I'm joined by Phil Morehouse, as always,
Hello.
for the agenda in which we talk about what's been going on this week, and hopefully Phil's mic might work. But
yes, it seems fine. We've been testing it for the last 20 minutes. It's been fine so far.
But the video's awful.
So it's like you deal with one problem and another one smacks you in the face. I mean, that's all that is.
So sorry about the low resolution nature of Phil's broadcast there. You can see the map of Africa, you get an idea, and also the response on Question Time last night where Chris Philp made an absolute tit of the human race. I was going to say himself, the Tory Party, Britain, but no, I just think everybody. This has been a policy that they've been banging on about every day for 2 years, and he doesn't even know where Rwanda is.
Yeah, well, I mean, even someone from the Mirror was taking the piss out of it, going, now that I think about it, maybe we should have got MPs to point on a map where Rwanda is before they were allowed to vote, because that would have saved a lot of problems. Because Rwanda, when they're trying to say that Rwanda is a safe country, it's like, first of all, we accept refugees from Rwanda, and the government are quite clear we're not going to send those back because it's not safe for them. But Rwanda very famously often has barneys with the Democratic Republic of Congo, which Philip thought they were the one and the same. He must have thought their various forays into each other's territories was a civil war. And it's the word genocide comes up a lot.
Yes.
From this supposedly safe nation.
Yes. Well, I was talking this morning about the Second Congolese War and the fact that 6 million people died as a result of it. And one of the big adjutants of that conflict was Rwanda.
Yeah.
And it's Goma, what's happening around Goma at the moment, which is in the very east of the country. It's right next to the border with Rwanda. It's very hard to get to from the capital, Kigali. Democratic Republic... It's Democratic Republic of Congo. It is huge. It is the size of Western Europe.
In the map, because my map's unfortunately a bit faded there, but in the middle, the sort of big palish green thing is DRC, and the tiny little thing to the right of it, which you can't even see, is Rwanda. Rwanda is tiny.
Yeah. Too low resolution. I can't believe how low your resolution is. I don't know what
I don't know. It's really weird. I don't know what's going on. As I say, it's fine on my end, and all the settings are fine.
Yeah,
so.
It's just coming through, and my internet's fine. And we checked it. You're supposed to be coming through as HD, but there you go. Maybe you could try to turn off the HD setting while I talk, and see if that improves things somehow.
All right. So yeah, we'll
I say thank you to Brad. We'll go to a lower thing that might actually work. Brad, thank you very much for the super chat. Brad W there. Chris Philp is so dense, even light cannot escape his gravitational pull. You're absolutely right. I always thought a black hole was the densest thing in the universe, but no. A neutron star. Sorry, a neutron star. I thought a neutron star was the densest thing.
Has that improved it? Actually, it looks slightly better.
It's way better.
I don't know why that. I've actually turned HD off.
Okay, well, it's a million times better, and now I can see you. And because we were getting about 4 frames a second off you before. That's so much better. There you go. That's how you solve a problem.
I'm so tired of my internet problems. I have no internet problems. What we have is a problem that's somewhere between us. It's all fine. From both our ends, it's just somewhere in the middle where it's not fine.
Yeah. So there's a conflict going on right now around Goma, which is including Rwandan soldiers who are coming over the border, and also these like militia groups that are supposedly Congolese, but are being paid by the Rwandan government to cause trouble. So much so that recently the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, compared the leader of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, to Hitler. So, relations aren't so good. They're technically, in a war at the moment. Or not technically, what's the word? De facto. They're at war with their neighbour. And it was such a good question. What if someone is coming from Goma as a refugee, because there's a war, which Rwanda is involved in, and we send them to Rwanda. And Phil had no response to that. He lied. He said, "Oh no, there's a provision where that provision does not exist."
No.
Ian Duncan Donuts said a while ago that people will be processed in Rwanda and then brought back here. That's not true. He just went around studios just lying to everyone.
Yeah.
And also, they're not mentioning the fact that however many refugees we send to Rwanda, they're going to send the exact number of refugees to us.
They could.
From Rwanda. Yeah.
Yeah, like it doesn't affect. It doesn't like. Yeah, so it is an absolute. The whole thing's an absolute nonsense. It's. I keep going on about it. It's absolutely insane that Rishi Sunak decided to back it. Utterly insane, because like you look at the result. First of all, it's you've now got a situation where they've empowered Reform UK. He did it to appease the far right. What's the result? The far right are now more likely to take over the party.
Yeah.
And what? He's made life tougher for himself because now Labour are sort of fairly static. They've been static on their support for some time. It's Reform UK that have changed the dynamic. Like if they'd have had a general election last spring, they'd have lost. But they'd be the clear opposition party now. Things were worse. The polling was worse last autumn than it was last spring. It's worse now than it was last autumn. And if they do wait till this autumn, it'll be worse this autumn than it is now. And none of this is because Labour are getting stronger. All of it is because Reform UK are nibbling away at more and more of the Tory vote.
Yeah.
And,
that's why they're doing it. That's why they're doing it, because they're like, Reform
Tories
UK.
Want it. But Rishi Sunak's an
idiot. We need to be more like lunatics.
But Rishi Sunak and most of the party are not actually like Reform UK. They don't want to be like Reform UK. They don't want the Tories to become like Reform UK. And yet they created it and it's like, does no one ever listen? Politicians never learn, do they, that appeasement never ever works?
No. And the deputy leader of Reform this week, Ben Habib, said he'd be quite happy to see people drown.
And
you know then what? He said the words were taken out of context. And it's like, no, they weren't. No. We have a recording. What reality do these people live in?
They know that. Like I did a video on it yesterday, just a short, but I did a video on it yesterday, and I had someone going, "Oh, what proof have you got that he ever said this?" It's like
the literal recording.
The clip I linked on the video is where he was. I mean, it comes to something where even Julia Hart-Brewer has to tell you you're a heartless bastard.
Yes,
that you're uncivilized.
I mean, I'd go back to this story of there was a Nazi living in China at the time of World War II, and he had to say, "Oh, the Japanese, they're a bit much." They're treating the civilians quite badly. I'm going to have to do something about this. That's how bad it was. So, yeah. Ben Habib, though, I mean, how he can continue being
the thing is,
a representative of a party.
He was one of the cannier ones, because we know what the sort of people Reform UK are. We know what they're like. But some of them are self-aware enough to know where the boundaries are.
Yeah.
And I thought he was one of them. And the fact... He obviously thought the envelope had shifted further than it had, because he has now tried to deny he even said it. He's not apologized. He's straight up tried to deny he even said it. And it's like, it's on video. Wherever on social media you try and say, "No, I didn't do this," someone's just going to post a reply with the video.
Yeah.
And it was, needless to say, community noted on Twitter.
But this the fact that the Tories can't point where Rwanda is on a map is something that should be brought out in every single news studio that they step foot in. That this needs to be a gimmick now, where they go, "Here's a map of Africa with no names on the countries. Which one is Rwanda?"
Yeah. Well, even if you got close to it, like they only have to get fairly close to it and just say something about the political situation in that part of Africa.
Yeah.
But they won't get anywhere near it.
Yeah.
They would have no idea.
I said this morning, I find it like morally repugnant that this guy doesn't know anything about the country that he's sending vulnerable women and children to for no crime whatsoever. But also the sort of geography nerd in me is just absolutely freaking out. I mean, wait till he finds out there's 2 Congos.
Well, I mean, he's never going to find out. But the fact is, I mean, you know, politicians, of course, are not experts in things. It's why neither journalists. It's why, Mick Lynch was who was he making look stupid?
It could be anyone.
Could have been good at that. Because the thing is, he at the end of the day, he is an expert on railways. It's basically his job. So whenever you try and debate with him, you could actually have a good point. But if you're just a journalist or a politician and rail is not your thing, you're going up against an expert. So you're going to come across really stupid. So we get that politicians are not actually experts, which is why they'd be well advised not to debate experts. But like everyone, like the audience reaction there, these are young men, right? These are not going to be I mean, who knows? Maybe all of those have travelled around the world like you, but I suspect not. They all knew it was a ridiculous answer. Whereas Streeting was like, what? Has he what? Like, he honestly
somewhere
couldn't believe it.
Brilliant.
He's not faked that expression. He was straight away. It was like,
what? so many images for memes have come from that. My God.
We should have been forewarned because Teresa Coffey famously, for example, she didn't know that Kigali was the capital of Rwanda.
Yeah, she thought it was another African country.
Yeah. So, you know, so it's like the reverse. Like Teresa Coffey had split two very very small country into 2. Chris Phillips has combined them.
Yeah.
And it was sort of, I mean, like, not even the basics. Not even the basics.
Not even the basics. Big thank you to Johnny Copperhead for the £5 super chat. Very generous of you, Johnny, today. Thank you. Even the supposedly nice Tories are pretty evil, but compared to Refuck, they seem almost human. Yeah, well, yeah, but then you got creeps like this Philp character coming along and just being absolutely bloody awful.
It is, isn't it? It's one of those. People are, again, sort of people who sort of understand the academic world are, again, pouring scorn on the fact he went to Oxford. And some people say, because there's people, you know, people like Chris Philp and people like Liz Truss and so on, and Boris Johnson went to Oxford. And you think, you know, but Oxford's a good university, isn't it? And it is a good university. The thing is, there are 2 doors into Oxford. One is for very clever people, and you have to be incredibly clever to get in. And the other door is for basically people who are posh and rich. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're clever, you can get in that door. Yeah. So although Oxford is a very good university, and for most people you have to be very clever to get in, there is that door for thick, posh tits, basically, who can just waltz in, because there are courses for them.
Yes.
So you can get an Oxford degree.
Or if you're Toby Young, your dad can make a phone call, even though you didn't get the grades, and get you in.
That's
right. Michael is asking in the chat, have you played Global by Trainwreck Labs, Graham? I think so. There's 2 of them. There's Wordle, like not Wordle, but Wordle. And there's Global as well. And one of them you've got to guess the country from the outline of the map of the country. And the other one, or the silhouette of the country, and the other one is that you have to pick any country in the world, and then it'll tell you how far away you are. It's like hot and cold. They're playing hot and cold.
Right.
I do spend an inordinate amount of time playing those games. I do prefer it to Wordle, to be honest.
See, I'd be no good at that because my geography is very basic. It is basic. It's not at all advanced, and yet I cannot believe the level of ignorance of ministers these days.
Well, yeah, I was thrown in jail in the Republic of Congo for a week, so I'm never going to forget.
As well as Cape Verde.
Yeah, twice. Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much. £2 super chat, all together now somewhere over the Congo. Yeah, if you want to read about my incarceration in Congo, you can read about it in my book, Man of the World. It's very funny. And the chapter that I've got about being banged up in the Congo, it was Congo. What's it called? Congo Brazzaville, not Congo Kinshasa, which is a different country. Basically, they couldn't pronounce my surname correctly because it's Hughes, and that's a bit of an odd word to say for an African francophone country. So they called me Hugs. That's my name, Hugs. So the chapter about my incarceration, if you can see that, it's called Free Hugs. Free Hugs.
Yeah. Very good. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. At least one person in the chat read that and heard that and thought that was funny. Go on, one person. Anyway, so yeah, wasn't much fun. Wasn't getting any food for a week. Yeah. Anyway, I laugh about it now. It's quite traumatic at the time. Anyway, but Rwanda itself as a country is absolutely beautiful. Like it is a real gem in the heart of Africa. It is clean. It's not polluted. It's the food is good. The food's great, and the people are lovely. It just happens to be run by
despotic nightmares.
A despotic nightmare. But one thing I learned very early on when I started traveling is you can't judge a country by its government. So,
but people do.
Yeah,
people do. So whenever sort of people will say something like, "Oh, it's not my government or not in my name," and it's like, yeah, around the world it is in our name. We just have to make peace with that and make better decisions at the election. Because actually, as far as any country is concerned, we are our government. We are what our government projects. They don't listen to us. They're listening. They're paying attention to them. Most people pay attention to the major news. Yeah, people aren't tuning in to learn what's going on in every country in the world from ordinary citizens. Just trying to project anything. If they read anything about a country, it's what's in a mainstream media.
Yeah,
and it'd be very much what the government projects.
Yeah. Serendipity Journey's laughing. Thank you very much, Serendipity Journey. And also there was I pumped off saying I got arrested in Nigeria as a spy. I think they thought that I was a spy or a journalist in Congo, and that's why I was locked up.
Right.
Because they thought that Steve was the guy who ran the fish mongers in Port Mole in Gabon, the capital Libreville. Yeah. They thought that he was the president, the newly elected Ali Bongo.
Right.
Not the children's magician from the 80s, but the other Ali Bongo, who was recently deposed by Wagner. There you go. Fun fact. So I'd like to know more about Plum Duff being arrested in Nigeria as a spy. But also, there was another thing that I was going to point out, but I've lost the point. No, I've lost the plot. I've lost the actual thing that someone has said because it keeps moving up the screen. But never mind. Anyway, so what else have we got on this week? We had our annual St. George's Day Riot for the gammon.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, people keep saying things like, and people shouldn't have, they shouldn't associate like the flag of St. George, which is basically all over Europe anyway. It's like he's a patron saint of so many countries, but they shouldn't associate this flag with bigotry. But when people are saying things like, "Oh, why do people why are they ashamed of St. George's Day?" Well, maybe it's because, let's compare, shall we? On St. Patrick's Day, everyone gets drunk. On St. George's Day, everyone gets drunk and punches a horse. So that is the sort of difference. Phil. Not everyone. But the thugs, the ones who were out there, and there were some who were just out there with the St. George's Day flags, and they were just having a good time. No different to people in Irish regalia on St. Patrick's Day, right? It was St. David's Day and St. Andrew's Day is a bit more muted. There's their own things in Wales and Scotland, respectively. It doesn't really bleed out to other countries. But, St. Patrick's Day, very popular around the world because it's a good excuse to get drunk and sing Irish folk songs. And actually embarrassingly, on the Wordle earlier this week, the word was rover. And, my fiance said she'd never heard it. She's like, her dad's Irish. And I thought, did you never have because I couldn't understand how she could grow up with an Irish family and have never heard the Irish Rover or the Wild Rover.
Or what, a Range Rover or a Land Rover or just a Rover? A Mars Rover?
Well, she could have easily just thought that was a made up word. It's part of a car. But in terms of actually as a word, she didn't,
someone who roves.
And I thought, how does someone from an Irish family not know?
I got that one in 3.
Wild Rover.
I got that one in 3, by the way.
I've been getting a lot of 3s lately. I got a 3 today, but I can't say what it is because not everyone will have done it.
Oh, okay.
But
what's your start word? What's the first word you use?
On most days, it's orate.
Oh, that's good.
But on a Sunday, it's roast because Sunday.
Okay. I use audio.
It used to be. I had audio at one point. But then I decided it was no good just having different ones each day. But I did also used to have heart on a Saturday for some reason. And then Hart came up, not on a Saturday though, so I didn't get a 1. So obviously I had to change sides. That just became Orate as well. And when Roast comes up, inevitably at some point, everything will just be Orate, because that'll probably never come up. Irate came up one time, and I still got it in 3, not 2.
Oh, man.
Because I put great first.
Oh, yeah, because you would, wouldn't you? Anyway, how did this descend into a discussion of,
we're discussing political strategy, so it's inevitable we discuss strategy and other aspects of life.
But this week was the week that the Rwanda bill passed, the final hurdle of being knocked back and forth from the House of Lords. And it's worth pointing out that the House of Lords tried to put amendments in, like making it so that if you were you were transported as a slave into the country, you couldn't be sent to Rwanda. And the Tory scumbags were like, no, not having that amendment. We're not going to protect people who have literally been trafficked here against their will, usually for
increases slavery. This in combination with legislation they passed last year actually increases the risk of slavery in this country.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Well, actually, you know, one of the biggest things, I mean, we're talking about this, the Rwanda thing's been going on forever. We know it's performative. We don't know if anyone will ever be sent to Rwanda. Nigel Farage seems confident no one ever will, but then he shoots his mouth off all the time about various things. But I mean, arguably the elephant in the room this week at the moment now is the fact that we may end up, I mean, I suspect we won't, but we could easily end up with Holyrood elections before Westminster ones now.
Well, this is interesting. They were supposed
to be taking 2 years.
So this just happened this morning, didn't it, with the leader, Yusa Hamza? No, but he said this morning that he's going to have an election. Like, if they get rid of him, he's going to have an election.
Well, I noted, so I don't have seen that. That's new to me. I did know he cancelled a speech today.
Yeah.
So I knew that. See, yesterday it was. I mean, I put a video out going, "This is crazy, isn't it? What he's just done is mad." And it's like, yeah, it is, because the situation. For those who aren't aware, now the SNP almost got a majority at the last Holyrood elections. They're easily the biggest party there, but they didn't quite get it. They basically got half the seats. But then after Humza Yousaf won the leadership contest, one of his fellow challengers, Ash Regan, buggered off because she took it well. So she joined the Alba Party, which is basically Alex Salmond's
Wasn't she the one who was like quite homophobic?
Yeah, transphobic. Yeah. In fact, she's actually. So what's happened now? The situation Yusuf's in. He only needs 1 vote. I actually thought it was 2, but I was thinking in terms of he doesn't need a majority. He just needs not to be a majority against him. So he only needs 1 vote outside the SNP. But first of all, there are some rebels in the SNP. He can't take all their votes for granted. But this 1 vote, where does it come from? You would think the Greens, because the Green Party are, would they necessarily want an election now? But I've seen some polling, I'm not sure it's totally reliable, by the way, that suggests if there were a Holyrood election now, the Green Party could gain an extra couple of seats. So maybe they're up for it. But certainly, either way, they have now declared that they're going to support the Conservative confidence vote. So basically, they're going to vote against Yousaf. So he's not going to get any votes from the Conservatives or the Greens or the Labour or the Lib Dems. So he needs that vote from Ash Regan. So Ash Regan inevitably is going, I have a price. You've got to be more homophobic and transphobic. In fact, she specifically said you've got to be more transphobic.
God.
That's what she said. She said, you've got to do more to stand up for women if you want my vote. Now, I will just throw this in, however. If there were to be Holyrood elections really quickly, I'm not sure Ash Regan retains her seat.
I hope not.
Because she moved to the Alba Party, which are sort of, I don't want to quite say they are to the SNP what Reform are to the Conservatives, but I think a lot of people would say that.
Yeah.
But they're slightly different in that what Alba are really is Alex Salmond, obviously sort of left frontline politics, then decided he wanted to be back in, and because he'd sort of left, the only option he had was to form his own party, which he did. So it's basically an Alex Salmond personality cult.
Yeah.
That attracts various crazes. So, probably not going to win. But, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But she may have to think about that. She may ultimately have to decide it's better to stabilise the government than it is to face an election 2 years early.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get
Because
that.
apart from anything, I mean, the SNP really don't want one now because it's a nightmare scenario for them. Because although the Tories have been losing vote share in Scotland, so the SNP have as well. So when you look at, like, for Westminster and Holyrood in a way as well, if you look at like where the challenge is between the Tories and the SNP, the SNP one's fallen away further. So actually, in the Westminster elections, the Tories could gain a couple of seats. Would be mad. Wouldn't that be insane that Scotland be the only place they could actually gain seats? But also, ideally, the SNP would want the next Holyrood elections to take place on time, because then Labour in government. So as long as they can try and say, "Oh, Labour aren't delivering," well enough. I mean, I hope they will. But you'd think you'd want Labour in power in Westminster before you want the next Holyrood election. So it's all very spicy.
Yeah. It is, and I think that there's it came out of nowhere as well, seemingly. But then you look into it and you go, oh, actually, the Greens have been saying for quite a while now that they're not happy with this power sharing agreement because the SNP are pushing for North Sea oil, and I get it. I get why the Greens have got a problem with that. I mean, the profit is there to be made now. The backhander to be made now on oil, but in the long term, Scotland in particular is blessed with places to generate electricity.
Yes. Oh yeah.
From the wind. It's one of the windiest places in the world.
It is indeed. And there's a lot of land that's not a lot of use for anything else, and it's quite high up.
Yeah, and it's got a big tidal ranges as well. It's got hydroelectric power they could have on the locks and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of things they could do. But before we go on, I've just got to say a big thank you to Attila. Thank you very much, Attila, for the super chat. What happens if the first Rwanda flight gets hijacked?
That'd be quite embarrassing.
Well,
I suspect it won't happen. I imagine there's going to be quite a lot of security on that plane, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but can they handcuff the refugees to
I mean, let's be honest. They're breaking international law. They can do what they like, can't they? At this point, I think they can do what they like. What I don't know though is, Rishi Sunak reckons he's got flights already booked. He's got his carriers; they're all booked. Yeah. He's just not saying who they are, and you can sort of see why that would be, because he doesn't want public pressure on them, so they have to then change their mind, right? So you can get that. But also, what if he doesn't have them? Yeah. What if he doesn't actually has a physical way? Because there was a bit of a rumor flying around last night. It seems to have gone nowhere. I didn't think it was probably plausible anyway, but you can't rule it out, that maybe Rishi Sunak's planning on calling the election today or Monday, right? And you think to yourself, that could make sense if he doesn't actually have carriers. Now that he's got his bill through, he's got people believing reasonably that at least a flight will take off.
If they vote for the Tories.
But no, they will take off. We expect a flight to go. He's got the bill through. That's pretty much all he needed. But he does need a plane. Now,
no, but does he though? Because what he can say is, you need to vote for us to make the planes go. We've done everything we need to do. Oh, yeah, we're just waiting on you to vote for us, and then we get these planes to go, and then they're going to be.
If he does have a plane, he will want it to take off before the election. But if he doesn't have a plane, that's a different matter. So, I mean, there's all these unknowns. We don't actually know if he has a plane or not.
Right.
Because any carrier, like the government, is realistically not going to be facing legal consequences for this. But an individual airline could.
Yeah.
Or a commercial airline.
Or Ryanair could take one of their 737s that only goes about 3,000 miles.
Then they might find that the Irish government revokes their licence.
Yeah.
What if that happens?
Well, yeah, indeed. Johan, thank you for asking about my audiobook. Yes, my book, Man of the World, available from all bad bookshops, is available as an audiobook, and it's read by me. And it's quite funny because I was running out of time in the studio that I hired in order to record it. I'll just do it at home now, but back in the day, I didn't have particularly good audio setup, and I was running out of time because it was like 1 o'clock in the morning and they were closing the building, and I was trying to finish off the book. So as it gets closer to its conclusion of me having to race to the pyramids for midnight at the end of the year, Yeah, I'm actually just saying the words faster and faster and faster as it goes along, which is quite amusing. Well, I thought it was amusing anyway. Anyway, so yes, can we talk about the railways? Can we talk about Great British Railways?
Yes.
So
or Rail Britannia.
There's a fantastic poster that went up. I'll try and dig it out while I was talking about it. Saying get ready for Great British Railways, or Rail Britannia.
Oh, was it that? That was a Labour candidate, wasn't it? Somewhere.
Wokemotion.
You meant?
Was also yeah. I can dig it out while we're talking, but basically, Labour have now committed to renationalising the trains, which I would think that would come under universal acclaim because it's what everyone wants. It's what Mick Lynch always goes on about. Oh well, if we renationalise. So you'd think that everyone would be behind this, and yet the people who seem to hate Starmer more than they want things to get better are going, oh no, it's not going to make any difference.
I mean, there are a lot of bad faith actors there. There's two lines. First of all, Starmer's not doing this thing that he should do. Then when he says he'll do it, he probably won't do it though. Really, he's just saying it.
Yeah.
And you see it so often.
Yeah.
I just ignore them. They're not there's no point in trying to engage with bad faith actors.
Yeah.
If people have a genuine view, that's different. But if they don't, if they're, then there's no point because you will never notice. You'll never persuade them.
That is an awesome poster.
But in terms of that speech this week, it wasn't new anyway. None of it was new policy. We're not going to get new policy from Labour. They've already settled on their policies. So what they're doing is just taking advantage of the fact that more people are now paying attention with anticipation for the election. So they're now just starting to restate some things that wouldn't have cut through before.
Yeah. But I mean, doing this kind of stuff and putting out posters like that, because everyone's going to love that. Because
I don't think that was an official. Oh, it is, but I mean, no. It's a Labour candidate that's done that.
Yeah.
I think it's
local
good,
candidate.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic, and Labour should be doing more of this sort of stuff. I know people complain about them using the flag, but I'd rather Labour uses the flag to get the Tories out of government than the drunken louts climbing up on the cenotaph with the Stella using our flag.
Yeah, people really shouldn't associate it. When Humza Yousaf yesterday gave his speech where he basically stuck two fingers up at the Green Party, which has gone remarkably well. He was flanked by two Saltaires. No one had a pop at that. No one said, populism. And why does he need two flags? It's because cameras come from both directions. That's why they sometimes have more than one flag. Every country does it. It's normal.
Hey, the flag of Bolivia has pictures of the flag of Bolivia on the flag of Bolivia. For some reason. I don't know why. 6 of them. Counting. Anyway, go
on. So yeah, don't associate that flag with it. It's not trying to side with populists using the flag. It's basically saying it is not the flag of populists. It's the national bloody flag. And we should use it. We should stop it being associated. Because the thing is, if you retreat from it, then it does become associated with these bigots. They've got no right to it. The Union flag especially. I mean, it's called the Union flag for a reason. It's a combination of three. It should be a combination of 4 flags.
Because it's not a jack unless it's flown from a jack staff.
Well, no, I keep having to say on that one. There was, if Parliament decided over 100 years ago, it was the case that was the situation. But Parliament did say over 100 years ago, no, it's totally acceptable. Because obviously it just became common. So you can call it the Union Jack. I just don't, because I learned that distinction before I learned that Parliament said, no, it's fine.
Well, it's a bit like in the olden days, you wouldn't say valet. You'd say valet in English.
Yeah. We do say valet. No,
we
still say valet. It's Americans that say valet. We still say valet.
But they're saying it right because it's a French word. You shouldn't say the T on the end. We're the ones saying it wrong.
But we're not saying it wrong.
Then to say valet now is an Americanism of a French word. It's
we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't say valet. But you do get a lot of people do that. It's because they watch too much American telly. Yeah. Do you know what my fiance? I'm having a pop at my fiance here.
Valeting.
I don't mean to. She doesn't watch this. It's fine. Do you know what she said yesterday? She said italics.
Oh no!
Italics.
That's it. Are you still getting married?
Yeah. Fine. I just corrected it. But people will say things like they'll say lieutenant for lieutenant.
I don't mind that. The Americanisms that really freak me out that are creeping in are the ones where I say I could care less when it should be I couldn't care less.
David Mitchell sorted that one out. Don't worry about it. He's still good.
And the other one is when people say that they did stuff on accident, not by accident, but on accident. And you're like, what? Stop it, America! Stop butchering our language.
See that one.
Get very passionate about it.
I can live with. Because you still know they're still, it still makes sense, but the I could care less doesn't make sense. It's a mathematical nonsense.
Yes, but some people say it's that's cheaper, half the price, and I'm like, yes,
yeah,
of course it is.
I know that one has done my head in. It should
twice
be cheap,
the price.
The price. Yeah.
Cheap at twice the price is the expression. But also we get stuff wrong. Like the one that the police love to use is some bad apples, just some bad apples. But the actual expression is one bad apple ruins the barrel.
That's the whole point.
The whole point is you can't have one bad apple because
that is exactly the point. I know. I understand.
Miss the point.
People use it to downplay the seriousness of something when actually the whole expression is about taking some. If you downplay something serious, it becomes really serious.
And the other one is jack of all trades, isn't it? Because people say jack of all trades thinking that it means like, so it's better to be a master of one thing than to be a jack. And actually the expression is the absolute opposite of that. It's better to be a jack of all trades than a master of one. Because obviously, you need to be able to multitask in this life. Thank you very much to the Gin Stitcher. Thank you very much. You Stitcher's Gins. Postal vote. Not received.
There will be. You can. First of all, contact you can vote unless you had to do it by post, but you'll have to contact your council. Your name is still there, by the way. Your name is still there. You'll just have to sort it out with your council. You may have to pop along in person if that's possible. If it's not possible, then you need to sort it out with the council, because if you're supposed to have a postal ballot, they need to make sure you get one.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget the vote is until
next Thursday.
Thursday, is it? One angry pagan saying spaghetti with a P instead of spaghetti really gets to me. Same as Pacific instead of specific. How do you feel about espresso instead of espresso?
I don't like coffee, so I don't care.
What about Americans say niche instead of niche? I found their niche in the market.
Worst one I find with Americans, and Dave Mitchell did another one on this as well. His videos are really good. He did them a few years ago. It's when they say tidbit instead of titbit because they think tit's rude. It's like, no, it's titbit, mate. There's nothing rude about it. You have birds called tits. You might have a few children. Yeah, you might have a few tits. You might have a few children snigger, but that's about it.
We do have a planet called Uranus as well.
Yeah. And that's another thing. People will say, we better say Uranus. No, it's Uranus.
You can fit 237 Earths in Uranus. Anyway. People are saying in the chat, lose and loose, misuse is the worst.
It's not the worst, but I don't like that either.
God, drive up the wall.
You are using a different word, which can change the meaning.
Yes, Katrina says the one that gets me is advanced warning. Advanced warning. I don't mind that so much. The proof is in the pudding is the phrase that irritates me the most. It makes no sense. The proof is in the pudding.
It's supposed to be the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Yes. Very good point. And not like the murder weapon is found in a pudding. And that's the proof you need to send them down. Attila, thank you very much for the super chat there, mate. That's really kind of you. How long before the USA adopts Spanish as its national language? It nearly did.
Well, it
nearly adopted French.
German. I thought it was German.
No, it was French. Because the French were the ones. I mean, the American Revolutionary War was in fact a proxy war between. France
I get that. But I'm pretty sure there was a strong case for it being German.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was it was going to be.
And now it's just the Amish that
French.
speak German.
Yeah, it was going to be French or English or perhaps Spanish, I think. But it's funny in places in America where they go, everyone around here speaks Spanish, and you're like, well, it used to be part of Mexico, so that makes sense. Yeah. How dare you? Lose is terrible on the internet. Also, your and your. And what about there, and there? They're there.
That predates the internet, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair. The serendipity journey. Although nowadays, when you're writing stuff on the internet, you don't just get a squiggly line when you spell something wrong. You get a line under it when your grammar is wrong, which I think is really helpful.
Or when it thinks the grammar is wrong.
Well, it loves its Oxford commas. I found that my phone.
To be honest,
loves
I do like Oxford commas.
I like Oxford commas. Because otherwise, the whole point of language, written and spoken, is to communicate. And if the means of communication is muddied by bad grammar, I think it's rude. Anyway, moving on. Paul Ewan, there you go. Thank you very much for super chats. 238. If you relax, I don't really understand that. Do you know that? Do you know what Paul's on about there in the super chat? No, Paul, you're going to have to explain yourself. Explain yourself. You don't have to pay anymore, but just explain yourself. Sam, Americans saying Iran annoys me.
We can't have a pop at pronunciations. At the end of the day, a pronunciation is what it is.
I don't like Buddha. Words. Okay, all right. Well, I'll take you up on that one. How do you feel when Americans call the painter Vincent van Gogh, arguably Van Gogh?
Again, like... There's all the time I will see a word written or a name written and never hear it, and then I'll have people on my video it's not pronounced like that. I get it all the time with usually like some of these these weird sounding constituency names in the south of England. But I had a Scottish one recently, like that latest dodgy Tory, who I would just call Menzies, but it's Mingness or something like that because it's like a Scottish word.
Ming.
Something like that.
Like Ming the Masters.
I I don't know. Like round here, there's no one called that. So I would just read it as it said. So that, again, that's understandable. You when you read a word and no one says it to you.
Chumley. Chumondley is Chumley.
Yeah, I know.
And St. John is pronounced St. John.
I mean, the thing that really, and I've got this from personal experience, the word that Americans really hate to try and work out is like if you give them some Worcestershire sauce. They get like, and they go, oh, Jesus. What? Are you having a laugh? So,
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. But again, if you just see a thing written down, the English language doesn't make sense in terms of pronunciation.
I've heard Americans talk about going up to Edinburgh. Vendetta saying Birmingham. People saying Birmingham instead of Birmingham. I hate Moscow instead of Moscow. And I also, I used to live in Melbourne, people saying Melbourne instead of Melbourne. You can tell that they haven't actually been to Melbourne because you call it Melbourne if you've been there. But counter to that, I really hate it when people say Barcelona. Drives you up the wall. It's Barcelona because they speak a different language there. It's not actually Spanish. It's Catalan. Just saying. I'm gonna get told off now by David.
But then we say Munich instead of München, so it doesn't really matter, does it? So.
No. It doesn't. There you go. Featherstone Hall is pronounced Fanshawe. There's another mad one. Tocester is also a tricky one. Name that Welsh town. I think it's going to be the longest Welsh name in the world.
It was specifically created. It was a bastard, the one who made it, though. He made it deliberately to be the longest place name in the world.
Yeah.
Like it didn't just naturally occur. Someone just artificially created that place deliberately to be a dick.
And we've got Yoni Raymond Luxury Yacht, pronounced Throat Warbler Mangrove. Is that Monty Python? Is that the Young Ones? Is that?
I think that's.
Is that Blackadder?
The only other one I would think of is maybe not the 9 o'clock news, but I suspect.
No, I think that's Monty Python, but we might be wrong. When I lived there, they made a point of calling Berkshire, not Berkshire. I made a point of calling it. So don't do that. Got it wrong on purpose. Why Montum is Wyndham? It's Monty Python. Yes, we are right first time. Yeah, woo! We win the quiz. But there you go. Anyway, what else has been happening this week? So Labour have launched their thing. Also, Angela Rayner played an absolute blinder at Prime Minister's questions.
To be fair, it's not hard against Oliver Dowden, but yeah.
Oh no, it was delicious. It was good. She put him on the spot and made him look like an absolute tit. How do you feel about her mentioning the fact that that Sunak is pint-sized? Do you think she said that? Shouldn't have said that?
Probably no. I mean, you are better off steering clear of like personal attacks. There's no need. It's the same when, like, with Boris Johnson's hair, it's like he did that deliberately just so that you would focus on that and not have an argument. And yeah, some of it was funny, the old idea of today I've mostly been combing my hair with a toffee apple. Yeah, it's funny. But basically making a big deal about his appearance means you're not, for the people who don't care about his appearance, you're making no argument to them. There's plenty to attack these people on. You don't need to attack them on any physical characteristics.
We got another super chat that's just come in from Johnny Copperhead. Thank you, Johnny. Van Gogh should be pronounced Von Gogh. Cough up that phlegm with a capital M. Sorry, capital F. It's been a long day. It's not even 2:00. It's been a long day. But yeah, I thought that she was fantastic, and it just showed how scared I think the Tories are of her. Like poor old Dan Wootton, he's on day 31 of it now. Of
Dan Hodges. Dan Wootton's the
he's
even less savoury Dan.
Okay, the desperate Dan, the same Dan who went on and on and on about Beergate, Currygate with Starmer, and say, there's something here. We got to investigate, and it's just come out in this week's Private Eye, which I recommend. By the way, Phil, they made the same joke as we did last week.
Yeah,
it's the same joke. We made that joke first.
Basically, yeah.
Checks in the post. Thanks, Ian.
You did predict they would.
I did predict that Private Eye would have that as their front cover, and then they did. But there you go. They pointed out that the guy in charge of the investigation for Greater Manchester Police turns out that he spoke at a Tory conference fringe event last year. That's a bit worrying, isn't it?
There is. I mean, the thing is, and this is the irony, they know what's going to happen here. They know that there's going to be like nothing happen. And then they'll say, it's because the police are run by Labour in Manchester. Whereas in actual fact, as Private Eye pointed out there, if there's any party links at all, it's actually with the Tories here.
Yeah.
Although usually when you get something like this, you want to look at the PCC.
Yeah.
I don't agree. I think they should just abolish it because I understand the reasoning behind it. I get that. But it actually, the reason for the police and crime commissioner role existing is actually made worse by it existing because it makes it more political when actually really it should take the politics out of it. And it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because it's someone to hide behind because no one really knows who their PCC is. I'm voting for ours this week. I mean, I know that our current one's a Tory one. Couldn't tell you his name. And I know that I'll be voting for the Labour one. Couldn't tell you his name.
No.
Because it's not a role I value.
Do you think there's a danger here that we're going into like that? So in America, you have like judges that are elected. And so they become politicians who become judges. You might not be
anyone
qualified.
Elected is a politician by definition.
Yeah.
And there's something like people keep talking about, it should be democracy. Like my attitude with like party leaders, I actually don't think party members should choose the party leader. I really don't. I think, we have a decent amount of say over who our candidate is, and I would let the MPs choose.
Yeah.
Because they know them.
Agree.
They know the job and they know the people.
It's worse than that,
people
Phil.
will say it's but the point is I'm making, the people will say, it's democratic though that we're all involved. It's like, would it be a good idea if we elected surgeons?
Yeah.
And that's my
pilots.
argument with it. You can't just say that giving more people a say is automatically more democratic. It's like there are some things that shouldn't.
Well, it is more democratic, but it's not the right.
Not a good thing.
It's not the right use of democracy.
No.
And so I think it dilutes the value of democracy.
Yeah.
But also, if you look at the disastrous outcomes of allowing the membership to vote in the last 10 years alone, you've got Liz Truss. So it wasn't even British people. It was anyone who was a member of the Tory party could vote
didn't have to
for
be in this
our
country.
Prime Minister. They didn't have to be in this country. They didn't have to even be a citizen of this country, and they could vote in this. And so that really got my back up in 2015 was by then I'd been a member of the Labour Party for 15 years, and my vote was worth exactly the same amount as someone who paid £3 in order to vote in that leadership.
Yeah.
It set us down the road that we're on.
Ed Miliband, I do like Ed Miliband, but he was an absolute chuffing idiot because he made that rule.
It was the daftest thing he could have done.
He did. He made an awful lot of mistakes.
Because the thing is, the thing is with democracy, it's great up to a point, but it is fundamentally flawed in that the side that spends most on advertising invariably wins.
Yeah.
And who's going to have the most advertising? If you are a judge, you're running to be a judge in a state in America or a town in America, and you have been given $1 million by a company that builds jails. That's how they make their money. They run private jails. And then they give you $1 million. You become the judge. What are you going to do with that power?
Exactly.
You're going to put people in jail because you've been paid.
There's all sorts of things we have as well. For example, actually, just going on to that, the private jails in America. I mean, people are saying, when are we going to be getting workhouses in this country? It's like, well, America already has them, and Tories want us to go that way.
Yeah.
But, for example, police are very they go around randomly shooting black people. They're very rarely prosecuted, and that is because the attorneys are elected as well, and the police union lobby is very powerful.
Oh, incredibly powerful.
So,
and the police have got like a get out clause, and also they don't have to report when they kill someone. They don't have to report it to the FBI. It's voluntary. If someone dies in custody, like they shoot someone, trying to escape or whatever. Oh, he's trying to escape. And the Guardian ran a thing about this. God, it must have been about eight years ago now, where they counted up how many people died from being shot by the police or dying in police custody. They invariably shot, but sometimes it was other means. But and it was over 1,183 people died, and it was just like, what? How? That's nearly double what the murder rate was in England by murderers. And I know America's a bigger country, but at the same time, I mean, it's and the power that they have, and then they go, but we were elected, and it kind of gives them this thing of like, oh well, the law can't judge us, only the voters can judge us, which allows the Tories to get away with murder.
I know that's what Jacob Rees-Mogg tries to argue with, like the Rwanda plan. They say, well, you should be up for judges or private, should be up to the voters to decide. Well, the voters didn't decide. You didn't ask them.
Yeah,
you didn't ask them.
Yeah, but it's just it's a Weasley way of getting out of responsibility.
Yeah, it is,
it's just par for the course for the Tories. I've got a couple of.
Go on. So I was just going to say, when you've got a bad electoral system as well, where there's people who know they're going to be elected.
Yeah.
Regardless, they just know they're going to get elected regardless of what they do.
Yeah. Maggie Pie, thank you very much for the 50 Swedish krona. Incoherent gammons have a pop at non-natives for speaking better English than them by arguing that something incorrect is indeed the correct writing. Yes, indeed, I've noticed that. And then Brad W. Yusuf said he won't resign, which, if leaders are like football managers, means he's gone next week. I think they're going to have an election. I think he's going to dissolve Parliament.
I don't know.
That's what's going to happen. He said it. He said he's going to dissolve Parliament. And Richard's saying, I get called Hugheads. I got a lot of Hugheads as well when I was traveling. I've got a terrible name for traveling around the world. Like, Graham is a ridiculous name that no one uses. It's not like there's an equivalent. Like, Michael has got Miguel. Do you know what I mean? Like, William has got Guillermo.
That's because these are all ancient names, aren't they? So they usually come from like Hebrew or something.
Yeah. But like Tom or Harry, I mean, you'd be all right with them. But like Graham and then Hughes, it's got a silent GH in it. Like, what kind of word has a silent GH? That's just daft.
Well,
having one silent letter's bad enough, but two.
All right, through.
Yeah. Anything with OUGH in it. It's going to be a nightmare. But anyway, so Duke's saying you could argue for a more progressive style of government, so people would be appointed to the government that actually had experience in the part of the country they oversee. Well, that's what the reform of the House of Lords should look like.
Yeah, it is very difficult though, because at the end of the day, if someone's going to be elected, they're going to have. There can be people who are perfectly good technocrats and will do a perfectly good job, but if they don't have a connection with the public, then the public don't necessarily realise that. And there's always plenty of people who are good at public relations that will say they're doing a crap job.
Yeah.
I mean, the media is the main. I mean, the media. Our electoral system does need changing, and we need media reform. Those are the two top things, surely. I mean, yesterday, like for example, we had the political editor, so a senior political editor of a national newspaper. It was the Sun on Sunday, so it's fairly low down on the
newspaper.
Yeah, but it is still a national newspaper, and the political editor was having a pop at chocolate bars. Oh, these are wake, these are. Yeah. Do you know why? Do you know what was upsetting about them? They're non-dairy. Still chocolate. I mean, chocolate's plant-based. It says, because it said plant-based.
Yeah.
So, like, chocolate's a plant, you cretin. I used to woke these chocolate bars.
That's like when they point out, they go, all these halal things. It's like water is halal. I'm not going to eat anything or drink anything that's halal. It's like, water's halal. Well, then I won't drink water anymore because I just don't want to, I just like, oh my God, you people. And apparently Maggie Pie's telling me in Sweden, Graham, pronounced Graham, is a name for full grain flour, which it is in America as well. That's why you have graham crackers. They don't say Graham, they say Graham.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So Laura in Graham, that's a funny name. Happy International Women's Day. That's actually pronounced Ingram, which is in England. I know an Ingram surname, and it is Ingram, Ingram. But yeah, it comes, I guess, from Ingram. Which, I mean, it doesn't, for my name, it's supposed to mean like grey home, like grey house. The guy from the grey house. Right. That's what apparently it means, but never mind. Anyway, before we go, because we have to wrap up soon, can we just all join together and have a little bit of a laugh at Lawrence Fox, who just got sued for £180,000?
That's that tip of the iceberg, because that's just the damages. The costs will be a lot. Don't know what the costs are yet, because he has to pay the costs. I mean, at the end of the day, he lost. That'll be a bit.
Yeah,
I mean, he comes from a rich family. I don't think he's going to go bankrupt.
Oh, come on. A boy can dream. He was whinging about having to pay 40 grand out to his kids the other week. Yeah, saying he couldn't afford it.
But, I mean, Boris Johnson was whining about, oh, I've got another kid he's going to need to go to Eton. I can't survive on a prime ministerial salary. And when people told him to piss off from being prime minister, they, what do you mean I can't be prime minister? It's like, he's now earning way more money. I say earning, I mean, that's words doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yeah.
He's making loads more money. And he's whining. Why wouldn't you be prime minister? Well, then you're moaning about the salary. You should have just been let me be prime minister on £5 million a year or something.
But yeah, there's a Supreme Court judge in America. It's the one who's been taking all the bribes. I forgot his name now for some reason. But he was constantly whinging about how much he got paid on the Supreme Court. Yeah. Until he made a new friend who was very, very wealthy and started taking him on holidays all around the world. And then he stopped complaining about it. So maybe it's when they stop complaining, we've really got to worry.
Yeah, maybe.
Otherwise, they're just milking the system, possibly for everything it's worth. Duke is saying, but cacao comes from a plant, indeed. Comes from a little tree. Fox said he would appeal. That's from Phil. Brilliant.
Well, that'll cost him more.
Yeah, hope he does and loses that as well. That's the best part of the business.
Wouldn't it be brilliant? Wouldn't it be brilliant if he appealed and he got the amount reduced on appeal by about 20 grand, but he added 100 grand to his legal costs?
That'd be excellent. But I mean, is anyone still backing him? Because he's been kicked off GB News, hasn't he? Now he's on the internet with that horrible Calvin Harris, whatever his name is, creep.
Robinson.
Yeah. They're out there being all anti-woke. It's very easy to be anti-woke when you're rich. Clarence Thomas, that's his name. Thank you very much, Johnny Cophead, for the American Supreme Court judge. We'll be covering what's been going on in America a bit more tonight in the Labour Social, but it's been fun and games in the American legal system this week, and it's all been quite dispiriting, to be honest with you. But we'll get into that tonight.
Well, I mean, have you seen that comment from Donald Trump's lawyer that seemed to suggest it was absolutely fine for the president to order the political assassination of an opponent?
Yeah. Yes.
It's insane, that.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
To the Supreme Court, he went, oh, no, we need to think about this. Oh, how long do you need to think about it? Oh, well, I was just thinking maybe till like July, and then we'll send off a lower court to go and have a look at this a bit longer. So when's this all going to be wrapped up? Oh, probably by about, I don't know, maybe the first week in November. I was thinking the first week in November, probably be wrapped up. Anything happening in the first week of November? Anything significant? Supreme Court that's not been bought by, the vested interests of America. God, I mean, we think our politics is depressing. America's like on another level.
Yeah.
Lawrence Fuchs is so awful that Cruella de Vil seems pleasant. Actually, if you watch the movie Cruella, it's pretty good. She comes across quite well in it. Calvin Robinson, the strange GB News priest who used to be a video games journalist. Is that what he used to be?
I don't know. I don't really. I didn't even know anything about him until about a year ago. Never heard of him before. only because he went on GB News, he popped up.
Yeah.
Because they were promoting him there, and I thought, who's this tit?
The SCOTUS year end is July. Yeah, I know, Stephanie, but they might send us lower court to do some research. They can pad this out for as long as they like, and they're going to, even though the question of does the president have the powers of a divine right absolute monarch should always be no.
Yeah.
Questionable as Nancy says, I can't hear the name Clarence without thinking RoboCop. We had a reference to RoboCop earlier. One of the people in the chats, their chat name was OCP something 001 or something, which is, I think that was RoboCop's catalog number. Someone suggested this week on Twitter that'd be really nice to have a film, and basically RoboCop is kept in the cellar with all like the old fax machines and stuff because his technology is so outdated. Right. And then a virus comes and wipes out all the actual super cops, the proper, the next generation Apple super cops, and they have to bring him out of retirement in order to fight the crime. It's such a great premise for a movie, like this 1980s robot.
Or you would just have him pop up in Vladimir Putin's office, because if you look at the photos in there, he's got a fax machine still.
He does.
He's got ancient stuff in there.
Does he think that that's less hackable?
I don't know. No idea. Maybe it is a security thing.
Maybe. Anyway, right, needs an updating. Right, Phil, are you going to be around tonight, or you got better things to do?
I don't know. In all honesty, I am supposed to be going to the gym, but my gym buddy may be ill, so I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Well, if you are around, we'd love to see you there, and we'd love to see you watching this there tonight at the Labour Social, 9:00. Grab yourself a beverage of your choice, and we'll have a laugh at what's been happening this week in the news, and we might go off on mad tangents talking about how Americans pronounce things, because that's the sort of thing that happens on Labour Social. Hey. Anyway, until then, thanks very much, Phil, for
no problemo.
Imparting your wisdom, and thanks very much to the lovely people in the chat, everyone watching, and especially for the super chats. They keep us going. Thank you very much for them. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I always forget to say that, so it's a bit hypocritical of me to say that you don't forget, but I remembered this time, so please don't forget to do that if you haven't already. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.